I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's been a long time.
Yeah. I went on vacation.
Did you? Yeah, you were gone a long time. I'm jealous.
Yeah. We went bass fishing in Florida. Oh, it was so nice. I got my personal best, 9 pounds, 2 ounces. Of course, my husband whooped my ass by 9 pounds, 5 ounces. Uh, but it was such a good trip. Such a good trip. It was awesome. Yeah.
Good, great. Good to
So
know.
yeah.
Soon I'll be down there.
Good.
So, hello everyone. We're back. This is I'm Michele Kemp, and this is my friend Shifra Morgan. We grew up together in a uh, abusive religious cult in central Wisconsin. And this is just another video of us discussing our lives and the aftermath. And now that Shifra's back from vacation, I've pinned her down.
Yeah. I want to catch up. So we had talked briefly while I was on the way home, and you had discovered new information and kind of
Yeah.
took a deep dive into things that, well, you found out things that, you know, you didn't know. So I kind of want to finish talking about that because um, what you were talking about is what all of us have experienced, like the backstabbing that was just unbelievable. And all like I would say 80% of the backstabbing that happened was manipulated by uh I don't even know what to call him anymore.
Rama, Ratman, the
Yeah,
April Fool's guy, because his birthday is April 1st. He's a fucking joke. He's evil. He's evil. Straight up evil.
yeah, he
Like,
is. There's
the shit that I have discovered about my own life just in the past week is horrendous.
so
There's just no sugarcoating it. There's no recovery from it. He played God with my life and completely manipulated the trajectory of my life behind the scenes without my permission, without my say so. And as a result, my whole adult life, my 20s, my 30s, and my 40s have been nothing but a continual stacking of trauma upon trauma upon heartbreak, heartache, and self-loathing, and I deserve this because I sinned, and like bad decision upon bad decision upon bad decision, and consequence after consequence, all because one guy was the puppeteer behind the curtain pulling strings. And just because I left at 18
did not mean
doesn't mean that I was out of his grasp or that I was no longer being manipulated or entranced by the effects of the cult and the effects of the programming and his atrocious games.
Can you give an example? Because in order for people to really understand, like, they have to almost see, like, so I know you don't need to go into detail or name names or anything like that, but like a lot of, as the kids got older and teenagers, fortunately for me, I wasn't there at that age, so I did not experience this, and quite grateful for that. But he would kind of set up relationships behind the scenes without you knowing about it, and then at the same time he was setting up that relationship, he was also downplaying that same person, and or like
Not even downplaying. Not downplaying. Downplaying isn't the word. Tearing down and ripping apart is what he did. So
purposely knowing that there would be anger, frustration,
resentment,
and then you guys wouldn't talk, and it would be like a permanent break, and then he could control this one with this anger and that one with that, and it was like a huge flipping game to him. Like,
and it wasn't, and we weren't raised to be able to talk to each other. Like, even a husband and wife scenario, I watched this happen with my parents. So my parents were married when they came into the cult, and my mom was told all manner of divisive, evil shit about my father in an effort to cause the maximum amount of division in their marriage. Now, I'm not saying that they had a perfect marriage prior to them coming to the cult.
Yeah, but they were married to each other and not married to Rama.
Correct. The problem is that once they joined Rama's facade, he became the third party in this union.
Yeah.
And he played played my parents against each other. And then part of his theology was that we couldn't speak to each other. Not even a married couple could say, well, I just talked to Rama the other day, and he said this to me.
Yeah.
Why did you say that? Like, husband and wife at home behind closed doors could not have those conversations because there was the threat of hell, and there was the threat of your spouse would turn you in.
Yeah.
There was no trust between spouses. And between anybody. But I'm talking specifically spouses, which is going to lead up to what happened to me. And that happened with friendships. It happened with siblings. It happened with parents and children. And whenever and wherever he saw a relationship forming, he would, in one ear of one person, say one thing, and in the ear of the other person, he would say another thing. And nobody compared stories because we had been branded with this idea that Rama was right, Rama was a man of God, and what he said was the truth. And we never questioned it.
Never once. And if you did, you were evil.
Correct. And the seeds of second guessing ourselves and the fear of retribution, because God can can hear our thoughts. God can hear our thoughts. God knows our every move. And whether Rama can hear or anybody around can hear, God can hear that. And that will, what our thoughts are will line us up for the lake of fire.
Yeah.
So I was born, the first one born into this cult. And for children my age, it changed later on for younger kids. But for my age, my options were, as I was shooting for adulthood, my options were college or marriage and motherhood. My options. My whole life was, you're a piece of shit, right? Because I came from Grant Kemp's family, so I was a piece of shit. I was the scapegoat. I was the crap from my family. Not to mention the whole group, the whole cult in itself. So that was it was bred in me. It was in my brain, and it became a part of my DNA. So I did not grow up with any hope for a future. However, I sat through thousands of theological meetings where we were taught, if you want something, you pray for it, and God answers your prayers.
Yep.
That if you believe and you have faith, God will answer your prayers, because he's a merciful God, right?
Yeah.
And so in my naivety, I believed that I had faith. And so from the time I was about 15 to the time I was 18, I prayed every night before I went to bed. A prayer, a specific prayer for God to guide my life. I knew that I wasn't going to go to college because that wasn't the way that Rama was pushing me in our discussions. He was asking me if I was interested in any of the boys that were my age. And for a long time, I never told him. And I didn't tell him because I was afraid of what he would do with that information. So I never told him. But behind the scenes, all of my own free will, I prayed myself. And when I was 16, I ran away. I decided I was done. I wasn't gonna go to the cult anymore. And I thought in my teenage brain, I thought, oh, my family will leave because, they'll leave, they'll go to the compound and they'll leave me, and I will be free to do whatever I want. No, it didn't work that way. I got caught and, whatever. And I ended up having to talk to Rama. And this is the first time I had an experience with his sickening, syrupy, disgusting, kind voice that sucked me right back in and made me feel like, oh my God, all of a sudden this guy likes me. Oh my God, he has taken an interest in me, and he wasn't calling me the Mushlibad name, and he wasn't calling me all those other fucking names that he called me. He was calling me Michele. And at 16, I was just like, oh, maybe this is, whatever. And in that conversation,
back in.
huh?
it was just enough to hook you back in.
Yep.
You know
And
what?
he asked
That
me.
was a fine art of his, and that was one of his abilities, was to know when to press the buttons or when to pull you in, be nice, sweet, kind, and then when you were back in and just at the right time where you were feeling comfortable, like you had a handle on your life, wham.
Yep. I'm sure, and I'm positive I'm not the only one. I've talked to many other.
Yeah. So keep going. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. It was just like when I hear you talk about that, it's just like that's what
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, and that's what it's so hard for people who haven't grown up like this to understand that every single day, this man controlled you, not only you, but everybody around you, and he orchestrated your life. And when people get out of that, it is so overwhelming. And like you have to make your own decision, and you're just like, oh, I don't know. You don't know how to do that. You don't know how. You
But
just,
for me,
and people come along and you just kind of like, yeah, okay, all right. And then things happen and you don't quite know if you should tell somebody, not tell somebody, go back to Rama, tell Rama, maybe you're being evil, maybe it's your fault, but you didn't really do anything wrong. You didn't have any really bad thoughts, or, you didn't think anything really bad. And, but all this like stuff, and you blame yourself, and there's no
but
reason
you've been so programmed that Rama is the only answer and that he's the ticket
Yes.
to the accurate answer.
Yes.
So when things are really bad, you have to call.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how he keeps control. So, so at this time when I'm talking to him, and it was like a 2-hour, 2.5-hour conversation. He got it out of me. I gave him the name of 2 guys. And for 2 months, maybe 3, all was great. I thought I was on the track to being like, my life was turning around. I was no longer going to be like however I was, like nobody was going to throw rocks at me anymore, and nobody was going to be spitting at me anymore, and nobody was going to be calling me names anymore, and all of those things.
Yeah.
I had a reprieve from all of that for a couple months. But then what started taking place was he would start picking me out of a crowd, and he would, because there's crowds everywhere. Like, it didn't matter where we were, he always had a crowd.
Yeah.
And whether it was in a service or whether it was in the middle of a construction project or wherever we were, he would pick me out, and everything turned into some sort of humiliation. It happened to everybody, not just me. It happened to everybody. And so he would berate me for something, whether it was something I did when I was 7, whether it was something I did yesterday, whatever. And then he would say to the 2 guys that I had given him the names of, he would say, "Isn't that right, so-and-so? You don't want a wife like that, do you?" And these guys don't really know what's going on, except to say, "Yes, brother. No, brother."
Yep. Well, that's what you could say.
That's the only acceptable answer.
Yeah.
But I knew what he was doing.
Yeah, because you had told him.
Completely crushing my confidence.
Yep. Your self-esteem.
My hope. All of it. Okay? But then there's still more conversations. We still have conversations where he builds you up again. He builds you up again. And he gives you more hope.
Yep.
But then he crashes it again. Yep. Over and over and over and over. And this went on until I was 18. And I decided I was done. I still remember the weekend I decided I was done.
What was it that made you, what happened that made you say, okay, I don't care anymore. I'm not doing this.
He did it again in the meeting. He did it I remember where I was sitting. I was sitting underneath the steps, those big wooden steps that go up into the addition.
Yep.
And he had randomly picked me out to, I don't know, freaking yell at me about something. I have no idea what it was. And I instantly had a fuck you attitude, and I put my head down. And I was not about to put it back up. And he was telling me, put my head back up, and I didn't listen. And there was people around me that were telling me to put my head back up, and there was other like parents around me telling me to listen, and I didn't listen. That was the first time in my life. And I told myself, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. Yeah. And that was last weekend, last time I was there. Because I couldn't handle it anymore. I was totally and completely in love with this one person, and I could not handle the humiliation anymore. It was too gut-wrenching. And my dad my dad was gone by then, so it was kind of an easy out. And so then I never came back.
Okay.
And then the following week, my dad invited my brother and I to go to a Twins game. And sure, why can't we go to a Twins game with our father, right? So we go to a Twins game. My oldest sister was there. Now, being freshly out of the cult, you know the stories that we had been told about my oldest sister. All of us had been told. What were you told about her?
Well, she was horrible, evil.
Yeah, all of these horrible things that she had done. She hadn't done any of that. Reporters had come to her and asked her questions, and she had answered them.
Yeah.
And simply because she had done that, she was now evil. And all of us, after that, had been taught that she was like Lucifer.
Yeah. Yeah. We weren't allowed to talk to her. She was shunned. Like
we weren't even supposed to mention her name.
Yeah.
Pictures that my parents had of her, they got rid of. My mom burned them. All stuff like that. So anyway, at this Twins game, my sister was there. And immediately my heart stopped because I was like, oh my God, like I'm committing this most outrageous sin.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what can I do? I'm brought whatever. So we are at this game, right? Well, after the game's over, I don't know how many weeks went by or days or whatever, but I had a conversation with Rama, and he told me that this boy, significant other, whatever, had told him that I had gone to the Twins game to see my sister, which wasn't true. And as a result, this guy and I didn't speak for like 2 years.
Because you couldn't trust him.
No.
And when you get out of the cult, there's a certain amount of privacy and secrecy you have to keep to yourself. Otherwise, it gets back to him. And in ways that you have no idea how they got it, And so you have to really keep your stuff to yourself. Like,
I
literally
know you do.
keep secrets. Like, you can't tell anybody anything because you never know. I mean, your closest confidant that you think that he will somehow get them to tell you everything that you have, like, including your parents, your, like, my
There's
sister.
not one single person that you can trust.
Yeah.
So the only person you can trust is yourself.
Yes. And
And
if you are lucky, there's somebody on the outside that you find that you can be confident with. But even with all the trauma of the backstabbing, you find it so hard to be able to trust anybody. And, usually you'll find a boy or something out on the outside, but you find out that, you even can't tell them anything because they use it against you in arguments or like you really had to keep everything to yourself. So even when you got out, there was an amount of like shit that you just didn't talk about. You just kept it to yourself. And so
it's like it's survival. And
yeah,
in order to survive, you just shove. You shove, and you try to do whatever you have to do to not think about it.
yeah.
And so
So
people
yeah,
wonder why kids who leave the cult end up on drugs, alcoholics, addicted to relationships or sex, or my thing ended up being working. I worked sun up to sundown. I worked.
well, that was something that we learned there too. Like we worked so hard and literally we worked to just like, I mean, we worked to get the hell out of meetings. Like we wanted to work to get out because
Work was our escape,
too,
and
yeah,
and work was my escape.
yeah,
So in the outside world, work was my escape. I just worked, work. That's all I've done my whole life, from 20s into my 40s. Work. And people on the outside think, wow, she's
yeah.
she's so strong, and she's so this, and she's so that, and she all of these things,
They have
which,
no idea.
okay, whatever. But that's my drug, you guys.
Yep.
Because I was suffering.
Yep. And it's not, and it seems like all of us kids that grew up, that were born in there and grew up, when we got out, like we buried so much and we tried to just go on and live a normal life, and it was almost like relearning how to live because we didn't know how to function in society. I mean, I never ordered from a fast food restaurant. I didn't know how to like do any of that. It was like I was this little newborn thing trying to mumble around and figure out how to live in real society and talk and communicate. And because all of that stuff was new, I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. I had never talked to anybody on the outside, like really as a kid. We were all kept together. Like we didn't have TV, we didn't have radio, we didn't have any of that stuff. And if we were lucky, we could sneak music every now and then and that kind of stuff. But we were like, we didn't know anything. And so when we got out, it was learning how to function in normal society.
Well, it was
And
trying to assimilate. We tried
yeah,
to assimilate by watching what was going on around us and what we thought was expected of us as human beings. And those of us that were the older siblings, I feel like we had it the hardest because we weren't taught about relationships. We weren't taught how to negotiate. We weren't taught how to communicate relationships. We weren't taught, like, I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was assumed about us. Like, were we supposed to just like be in a relationship, have sex, have a bunch of kids, and hate each other? Like,
yeah, that's what he wanted. That's how he controlled everybody. I mean, like, look at everybody, all the families that are there. All the families are broken up. None of the families are like together. There's like conflict in every single family that is in there. Every single family has conflict. There are people that are
every
divided.
single family, every single family has heartbreak. Every single family has been destroyed.
Yeah.
Everywhere that Rama has been, anywhere that his footprints have gone, anything that he has touched, it's like the Midas touch, except that wherever Rama has been destruction.
Intentional.
Every death and death.
Yeah.
Everywhere he's gone. His own daughter has died of cancer. His mother committed suicide. His siblings are dead. There are so many people, there are instances within the cult where people have died due to neglect, due to improper information.
Yeah.
Because they listened to him. He has so much blood on his hands. And for me, I just found out that while Rama was telling me these things to get me to not trust my friend,
yeah,
he was telling him the exact same thing about me.
Downcutting you, making you a horrible person. You don't want a wife like that.
However, then through the years, Rama would say things to him like, you should start a relationship with her. Knowing I was going through a disastrous divorce and it wasn't a good time.
Yeah. Well, he was doing that because he knew eventually that person would reach out and he needed to stay.
No, Rama knew what my marriage was like because I didn't leave my marriage until Rama told me I could. I stayed in that freaking marriage until Rama gave me permission.
You were communicating to Rama that whole time?
Yeah. I stayed in that marriage until Rama gave me the okay to leave because I was afraid of making the wrong decision.
Oh, Michele. That's what I mean by, even though you were out and you were living in the real world, he still had a hook in you. He still, like, that's what I mean by, like.
And then he tries to set these, it wasn't just one guy either. There were other guys that he would send that he would try to set me up with without any consideration at all for the trauma that I had been through.
No, that was his way of keeping control over you.
And knowing that my reaction was going to be shock and my reaction was going to be to freak out because I'm a human being.
Yeah.
And then when I freak out, he tells the male counterpart, don't ever speak to her again. Never see her face again. And I have lived half my life. And I have just realized the last week that half of my life has been manipulated.
Yep.
By Rama.
Yep.
Even when I thought I had control.
Yep.
And the worst part of it is is that he took the one thing that I wanted the most, and he ripped it from me, and he ripped it from him. And I am so angry.
I understand that. I understand that.
And now what? And now what am I supposed to do with that?
Well,
people will tell me, you have to accept it. You just have to move on. You know, you've lived this long. You've lived this long without it.
It's not about...
Those people don't understand.
No, they don't. They don't. So now what you have to do is you have
because I'm reliving all of that trauma all over again right now.
Well, are you reliving it, or are you finally accepting that it actually happened? You know,
I'm reliving it.
Yeah.
I cannot get rid of the circumstances in my head that I went through solo without the benefit of my mother or my father or my sisters or the man I loved or friends. I went through that, all of that, by myself as an 18-year-old child who knew nothing about the world. And to this day, I still am suffering the consequences of that torment.
Of an evil, what an evil man did and continued to do. I didn't realize, I guess, that you were talking to him through all of that.
Well, you also have to realize that from the time I was 7, I watched Rama tell my parents to not have anything to do with my older siblings.
Yeah.
So when it was my turn to want to leave, I was put into this pressure cooker.
You wanted to continue to have a relationship.
I had to toe some sort of a line.
Yeah.
And like appease Rama. Yep. So that I could maintain a relationship with my mother, so that he wouldn't yank her from me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what?
In the end, he fucking took her from me anyway.
Well, yeah, he used her to keep you there. He knew what it was that would keep you there. You know?
And as soon as he could no longer control me and my siblings, that is when he told my mom to cut us off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we no longer have a relationship with our mother.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is getting out of the cult. The older you get, the more I call it, I think of our brains as an onion. It's like you heal a little bit, reality kind of sits in, and you kind of question things, and you kind of think about it, and you're like, okay, I don't, like, starting with the little things like wearing jeans. All those little things build up, like, okay, So every time I'd put on a pair of jeans, you think, oh, I'm going to hell, I'm going to hell, I'm going to hell. I mean, it takes years for that thought to stop.
Or you wait to see if the ground opens up. If the ground doesn't open up, okay, maybe I'm okay. Now I'm going to cut my hair.
Yes. And all of those little steps. And it takes years for the onion to get layered, peeled back and peeled back and peeled back. And it's almost like when we get into our late 30s, early 40s, for me and for a lot of the kids that got out when they were in like their teenage years, but for like my older siblings, like your age, it's more into their 50s. Just because I feel like it took them a little bit longer to realize, because Rama still had a hook. Well, he still had a hook even when you were out. My older sisters, even though they were out and they were in the military doing all of this stuff, they were still calling him when something major would happen, or and I just couldn't understand it. And then like when I found out that my sister went behind my back, and I thought her and I were this. I thought she was the one person out of all my siblings. We had gone through basic together. We had gone through all of that stuff together. I thought she was my, and when I found out that she was still talking to him and he was getting her to do stuff behind my back to hurt my little sister, our little sister, and I mean, that just crushed me. And it made me cut off every relationship I had to do with any of my biological family, any of the Fayeses. I cut it all off because I was like, there is no way in hell I'm not. I just couldn't believe that even though they had been through all of the stuff that they had been through, that she was still thinking that he was a good guy and that he wasn't behind it. And like, she couldn't see that, because she was married to somebody from in the cult, and she couldn't see the fact that he was wheeling the puppets between her and her ex and all of this stuff. And I'm sitting kind of on the outside and I'm listening to her talk and all of this stuff, and I'm just like, dude, how the fuck can you not see that? I don't understand.
I think I wonder if, I don't know, like, I wonder if there was a difference in I don't know, like, well, was the emotional and mental abuse worse with us older ones?
No, I think I just escaped. I got out when
there's other kids your age too that, like, they left and they were like, fuck this shit, I'm not calling anymore.
Yeah. And I think, like, I don't know, there was a certain group of us, like, I think we just got to a point where we were like, we didn't give a shit. And the older boys, like your age boys, we saw how Rama would pit them against, like, people. And like my older brothers, he would literally get them to the point where they were pissed at somebody and mad at somebody for something that they did, even though it had nothing to do with my brothers at all. So say one of the, and he would get them so angry and talk so bad about this person that everybody had this anger towards them. And then he
like triangulation times 100.
Yeah. And he'd get all these teenage boys all built up with this anger and like, you know, and then he would keep them like contained, you know, and talk about it. And then the moment he like needed someone to get beat up, he would release them like I almost would call it like a pack of dogs.
Yeah.
And he could go get them. And he would actually tell them what to do, but they were so angry that they would do things that a normal human being wouldn't do in a rational state of mind.
Yeah.
And that is how he controlled the teenage boys. And as the teenage boys got older, I think like the younger kids, like my age kids, like we saw that and we were able to maneuver in ways that you guys, the older kids, were not able to maneuver because we saw. You understand what I'm saying? So we were able to be more sneaky. We learned how to be more sneaky. We learned how to build alliances where the older kids did not, because they didn't have anybody to learn from.
Maybe there was just more of you.
That could have been too.
There wasn't as many of us.
Well, and also we were getting bigger and he didn't have as many like feelers out, you know, where you guys were the first ones kind of to be born into that. So, you know, you were the first ones. And you also have to remember the physical punishment when you guys were little was worse than when we were little. You know, you guys had more of the water barrels. You guys had more of the, you know,
leaving us outside in the middle of the night in the holes.
The like I remember the cattle prod, but it did not happen. Like I think I was like maybe 6 or 7 when it stopped. Like no longer was the cattle prod used, but you guys had the cattle prod all the way up to the age of like 11, 12.
Yep.
You know, so that, you know, that makes a big difference on how your brain is worked, you know, and how he controls you and all of those kind of things. So I think that plays into it as well. You know, us kids, yes, we were beat up and stuff like that, but you know, he had the cord, the wire, the electrical cord that he used, and he'd whip us on the back or whatever, or on the thighs or wherever he could. But the biggest thing he did with like us, I think, is he would say things like, I can see your spirit. I know you're lying right now. Or, you know, and then he would say what you're thinking, and you're like, I didn't think that. I didn't think that at all. But I must have been thinking that because he can see inside of our brains, you know. And so he would do things like that with us more so when you guys got a little bit older, like, I remember him saying things to me and girl or, you know, like people around, your spirit is lying, you know, and then he would whip you because your spirit was lying and you weren't doing anything. You were just standing there.
I don't have a spirit anymore. He crushed it.
No, he didn't. Because
no,
then you wouldn't. Well, he tried.
Yeah.
He tried.
No, he didn't kill my spirit.
No, actually, you know what?
He's pissed it off.
Yeah, I was gonna say he just made you angry. I'm shaking.
He has pissed me off.
Well, so like what I was saying about the iron, you know, I think you are now coming to a realization of how in-depthly he did control everybody and how.
I mean, forget everybody. When I went into this, I had no idea how much more it was going to impact me. I had no idea.
In a way, I say it's good because now you can really truly heal. I know it's devastating.
Am I?
Yeah, but you're going to have to go through the grieving process. And what I mean by that is, so
I have to grieve all of that all over again.
Yes. but you have to grieve it in a way that is real. So now that you have the reality of the situation, you can truly grieve it.
I don't want to.
Well, you don't have to give it up. I'm saying, okay, so in your head, you had what you wished was, or this, I call it a fantasy now because it's something that, so like, I'm going to use myself as an example when it comes to
Can't we just like do this kind of same shit to Rama?
You know what?
Wouldn't that be nice? Him dying soon, that would be way too easy, man. I don't want him to die anytime soon.
I want him to see all of these videos and for him to know, guess what, motherfucker? I'm living my best life. Despite everything that you did, everything that you took away from me, everything that you tried to do to destroy me. Guess what, motherfucker? I'm living my best life right now. I'm enjoying life like you wouldn't believe. So you know what? Take this and shove it where like the sun doesn't shine, because I don't care what you think, what you believe. You are an asshole. You are manipulative. You have destroyed so many people's lives. And the only thing that's keeping your motherfucking ass alive is the fact that I believe in an afterlife. Otherwise, your ass would disappear from this earth. And I would make sure myself, my own personal hands would take you down. But because I believe in an afterlife, your ass is still alive. That is the only reason why you're still alive. Because I'm serious. This man is an evil person and should not be on this earth. He has destroyed so many families, and not just like the family like unit. He has destroyed generations. It has affected the generation before, like your mom's mom was devastated by this. That whole family, your mom's sisters are devastated by this. You know, my whole biological family is devastated by this. My uncles, my aunts, my grandmas, my cousins, all of us are affected by this, and it goes into our children. And you know, it's just the way we raise our children, the way it has affected our, you know, like everything. And for one man to cause so much destruction for money, and that is it, money and power, that is it, is just
money, control.
He's devil. He's like the devil. That's when I think of the definition of devil, it's him. He has gone out and manipulated people, you brainwashed them, made them think things that they shouldn't think, with the intention of using them to make money for him and for him to live in mansions.
And what's happened to the compound in Chano? Who's living there now?
I have no idea.
It's gonna rot. It's standing there. How many millions of dollars has been poured into that place? And it's gonna sit there and it's gonna fall apart and it's gonna rot. What's happening to the mansion in Baltimore that we've poured in millions and millions of dollars into? Somebody almost died there. What's gonna happen to that place? He abandoned it because people in Baltimore finally found out he was a fraud. So he disappeared from there. What's going to happen to that house there? It's going to sit there and it's going to fall apart. He doesn't give a shit. Wasn't his money.
No.
What's going to happen to all these places in Aldie, Virginia, that he's just
living off of everybody that's still there? The cult is still going. He's still living off of all of them. They're all still giving him money. That's how he's still living.
What's going to happen to this so-called school in India? It's falling apart. That we've poured millions of dollars into.
Oh yeah, the school, the buckets.
It's falling apart. It doesn't cost millions of dollars to run a school in a third world country.
No, he's using all of it to live. Still,
he's taking the money and he's living high on the hog, higher than any single one of us has ever dreamt of living.
And you know what makes me the most mad is, like, you know, another thing. So food, you know, my biological, we were so poor that my grandfather would come down on the weekends and bring deer food. I'm talking about deer apples that okay. So, like, you know, pull into the gas station, you see the deer, like, food that's on the side there.
Yep.
He would buy deer apples and, like, food, cabbage and shit.
Of course, the deer, yeah.
We would eat the deer, like, dude, and that shit would go on for like 6 months. And that was because they were giving money to him, so they had nothing. There was another time where we ate nothing for other than, like, it was pancakes or whatever you would call it, but it was flour, water, a little bit of baking soda, and that was it. Or, like, there was like one staple or whatever that we would eat. Potatoes. We ate potatoes for, like, I don't know how long. And it was because they didn't have money for food, because they were giving him the money. I can't tell you the amount of creditors that would call. They finally got rid of the phone, and yeah, Rama said get rid of the phone, but she was so happy to get rid of that fucking phone because the creditors stopped calling. They didn't have a way to get a hold of them, because it's mind-blowing, and people on the outside world do not understand the depth of what this man has done and continues to do to this day. If they did, he wouldn't be in business. But he manages to lie, and I don't know. It's a gift. He's got a gift at manipulating people. It's and he is just.
He's a doctor, Avraham Cohen.
Yeah, it's just it's amazing.
Doctor, my ass. I might as well be a doctor. We can all be doctors. Just put doctor in front of our names, right?
Yeah.
That's how we get doctor.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to college.
No. But it just, you know, my heart breaks that you are now discovering the full depth of.
I bet there's more. There's going to be more.
But at the same time, that my heart breaks that you're having to go through this again. I don't want to say. I'm happy that you finally know the depth, because now, or you have a true picture of how evil this man really is.
Yeah.
Because now you can truly break those chains that he had tied to your brain, and you can literally put up both fingers now and say, you know what? I really, truly, if I saw you today, anywhere, I would go off on your ass, and I would never say yes, brother, no, brother, or any of that shit to you again.
Right.
Not even my damn dreams would I say that stuff to you anymore.
Yeah.
You know, where there's a lot of people who are out, if they saw him on the street, they would right away fall back into yes, brother, no, brother. And
yeah, fuck that shit.
Yeah. So that is what I mean by I am happy that you are now in that frame of mind. And yes, this is going to be painful. And this is going to be a process of anger, sadness. You're going to go through, because he took something from you.
Yep.
And
he took a lot.
Yeah. Like, you know, and you are finally realizing the depth of what he took from you. Yep. And so it's a grieving process that you're going to have to go through. And
yeah,
sorry, my heart breaks for you.
Thanks.
I almost feel like every layer that you take off of the onion, it's another grieving process that you have to go through.
Yeah.
And another layer pops up, and you have to grieve that. That's why I say it takes years for you to truly be deprogrammed from the brainwashing that he does.
Yep.
And I am just fortunate in so many ways.
And let me say, I by no means am the only one.
No, not at all.
I'm one person.
Yeah.
I'm one person that, you know, he fucked with 2 people here in this scenario.
Yeah.
There's so many other people.
Yeah.
Where he set people up to take the fall for things he did.
Yep. Well,
they went to prison
for him.
People went to prison for him.
Yes. And came out of prison and went back.
Well, not everybody, but yeah. It's atrocious. Yeah. That guy's gonna burn.
The other thing too.
Talking about a lake of fire. That's where he's going.
Yeah, you know the other thing too that
remember he used to tell us all, when your strength goes down, the Lord visits your iniquity. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Guess what, old man? Guess what, old man?
Yes. Yes.
Your strength's going down.
Did you see that post on Facebook with the old teachings? On the one group?
No.
Oh, you gotta go. There was like someone posted the old, like, the pamphlets.
Oh yes, I've seen those.
Okay, well, like, I'm making that shit public.
Good. We should.
I'm just like, I was reading, I'm like, oh, I can't believe I forgot about this. Like, how did I forget about this? Oh my goodness, this is like
you look at that stuff and you're like,
I can't believe we believed that.
I believed that.
Yeah. And yes, I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, so unfortunately I don't get my apps or anything back until the 12th.
Well, something that the public, everybody can look forward to.
Yes. So I meant to do like that chat group too, but I meant to do like every Monday, but now I can't do it like until I get my stuff back. So as soon as I get my stuff back, I'm gonna go back on there and start that again. And depending on how that all plays out, I might end up making a public group too, and inviting everybody on the public form. And then just making everybody aware that, you know, one is public and anybody can read it and see it. And, you know, maybe I'll say something like, if anybody has any questions or wants to, you can go over to that area or whatever, and we'll visit that site like weekly or whatever it may be of any questions anybody has, because I've been getting questions from people I went to high school with. It's like, we had no idea. Oh my goodness.
I've had those questions too. We had no idea. Like, and
really, you were like,
yeah. You know, I'm sure I'll get more comments too, because I know that there are people I was friends with that are gonna know what I'm talking about when they see this, and they're gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know."
Yeah, and you know the other thing too, Michelle, that so a lot of the kids that are out, that are just now realizing kind of the depth of what he did, they don't really have any way to explain it. And they don't have any way to put it into words. And I feel like I've been away from that cult world long enough that I'm able to put it into words. And I feel like I've gone through some of the healing and the trauma that happens as you go through the healing, like the panic attacks, like the different things that happen when you feel overwhelmed with those feelings of fear and anxiety, and you don't quite know how to handle it, and they make you cry, and all your body's remembering all the trauma that you went through as a kid, and it's coming out, and you don't know how to explain it, and there's no really any word for it. Yeah. And I mean, I'd be at work, and for no reason, all of a sudden I just get overwhelmed, and a thought would cross my brain, and it would just, you know, so us talking about this and put it into words I really hope it brings the other people that are out, that are kind of like just starting the process and just now being able to think about it and being able to analyze it themselves in their own brain, and they're talking about it within their small little circle, but they haven't been able to broaden their circle.
Yeah.
I mean, it took me years to even admit it to anybody that I met that I was from a cult. You know, I'm just now able to say, they're like, oh, where did you get your name? And
Same.
I'm like, oh, my crazy parents were in a cult. The cult leader gave me my name. And I'm able to say it and kind of laugh about it and like talk about it and like, you know, and do that, where it, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, someone asked me where I got my name, and I'd be like, oh, well, you know, my parents were crazy hippies, or, you know, or I'd say something like that because I was embarrassed. I didn't know how to, you know, I wasn't comfortable with my own story to be able to make anybody else comfortable with my story. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. I do. I mean,
And the more
I denied it. I didn't. Let me tell you something. My supervisor that I got hired at my current job, the supervisor that hired me, part of her extended family was in our cult. And we talked about it because I knew her last name, and I knew the connection, but I denied it to her for years that we were in a cult.
Well, so I lived with normal people from the age of like 13, well, 14, okay? The whole time through my whole high school years, all the way up to, I would say, like 2010, 2006, I would say like 2010. I didn't say anything about what happened in the cult. I didn't talk about it. A lot of it, I think I suppressed and I shoved down, and I didn't, like, you know, there were key things that happened, like my grandfather molesting me, that I always knew happened. But that was like the only big thing that really stuck out that I knew was bad. There were other things that I knew that were bad, but like I didn't really think about it. You know what it reminds me of? The Blind Side. You know that movie?
Yep.
Hey, so like he said, I just want to be happy and I just want to live my life and I just want to, that's what I was like when I was in high school, as, you know, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, all the way.
We need to wrap this up.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just quickly. I forgot my point now. I don't remember my point.
Well, I mean, I got a whole bunch of emotional here, but I can't help it. It's the process that I'm going through, and I'm human, and
you shouldn't apologize or even justify anything. You're being real.
Yeah, true.
So you shouldn't. I say this to my kids all the time. Emotions are real. You can't control what emotions you have. How you react to those emotions is your responsibility. But having those emotions and admitting to those emotions does not make you in any way, shape, or form a bad person or anything like that. So all these
emotions, I just want to tell all of the kids that we've all grown up with, that if you're going through similar shit, I understand.
Hang in there.
I've been doing this for half of my life, and it sucks.
It does.
So I have your back. I don't have all the answers, but
if you need to talk, know that you can talk. We don't say anything. If you need a listening ear, we're just here to listen. Nothing's public if you don't want it to be public. You know, this is such a sensitive subject for so many people, and it is on so many different levels. Everybody has their own way of dealing with things. And so this is my way of dealing with things. This is your way of dealing with things. And this is giving me power, and this is giving me, you know, an ability to say what I feel like he needs to hear. I want him to hear me say this. I want him to know that I know what he did. And I know what an evil man is.
Same.
And I don't have the ability to go knock on his door. If I did, I would go knock on that man's door, and I would say, listen here, I know
He's too much of a coward. He wouldn't come to the door. He's got too many Caucasian women around him that lie for him.
Yes. It would never, yes.
He wouldn't come to the door. He would never face you. He's too much of a freaking ball sack.
If there's any of this that like we post or whatever, I want you to snip this little part out and tell all of his little minions that are around him. Shifra, Fayez, now Shifra, Lynn, Morgan is not afraid of you. And I know what an evil person you are. And everybody around you who's listening to this video should understand that he is an evil person, and you are working with an evil person, and you've heard people say that he's an evil person. So it's time for you to do your own homework and to realize that you need to do your own research. You need to look at things yourself, and you need to start analyzing things yourself instead of listening to a human being. He is not God in any way, shape, or form. And God does not come down and speak to him in any way, shape, or form. So go tell him from me.
They're accomplices.
Now they are.
Every single one of them is an accomplice.
Yeah.
You're accomplice to all the abuse that you watch happen. You're an accomplice.
All the kids that got hit, all the kids that got beat, all of us that, yes, he's an accomplice. They, all of them. And, you know, it's something that they have to live with and understand that, you know, I'm sorry, but you sat by and watched these things happen. You knew.
All right, Chef Frigg, we gotta go. People are not gonna want to sit here and listen to us anymore.
Yes. Okay. All right. Anyway, I love you, and I
love you.
And yes, the next couple weeks are going to suck while you go through the grieving process, but keep talking.
All right. I will talk to you later. We'll talk off camera.
Yeah.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.